In 1836, a young inventor stood before a skeptical crowd of politicians and military officers. In his hands, he held what looked like just another pistol. But this demonstration would change warfare forever. With 6 precise shots fired in rapid succession, Samuel Colt didn't just create a new weapon. He revolutionized the American frontier and wrote his name into legend. This is the story of the man who made all men equal, one trigger pull at a time. Picture a young boy perched over his father's workbench in early 1800s, Hartford, Connecticut. His small hands carefully disassembling every mechanical device he could find, watches, locks, and anything else with moving parts. This wasn't just childhood curiosity. This was Samuel Colt's first step toward changing American history. Born in 1814 to a family of textile manufacturers, young Sam showed little interest in following his father's footsteps into the family business. Instead, he was captivated by the intricate dance of gears and springs, spending countless hours taking things apart and putting them back together. His father called it mischief, but Sam called it research. At age 15, while working as a sailor on the brig Corvo, destiny struck. During long watches at sea, Sam would stare at the ship's wheel, mesmerized by how the spokes locked into place with each turn. The steady click, click, click of the wheel's mechanism planted a seed in his mind, one that would grow into an invention that would reshape the American frontier. But young Colt's path wasn't straight or simple. His first attempts at innovation led him down an unusual road, touring as Dr. Colt, a traveling showman demonstrating the effects of nitrous oxide or laughing gas to amazed audiences. While it might seem far removed from gunsmithing, these shows funded his true passion, developing his revolutionary firearm design. In the dead of night, in rented workshop spaces, Samuel would work tirelessly on wooden models of his idea. The concept was brilliantly simple, yet had eluded gunsmiths for centuries, a revolving cylinder that would allow multiple shots without reloading. Each failure taught him something new. Each setback fueled his determination. What truly set young Colt apart wasn't just his mechanical genius. It was his absolute, unshakable belief in his vision. While other inventors might have given up after their first, second, or 10th failure, Samuel Colt's response to every setback was to work harder, think smarter, and push forward. He would often say, "There's nothing that can't be solved by good American ingenuity." By his early 20s, covered in gun oil and metal shavings, surviving on barely any sleep, Colt was getting closer to his dream. The local craftsmen who helped him build his prototypes thought he was mad, but they couldn't deny the potential they saw in his designs. Those early years of persistence, of learning through failure, of refusing to accept impossibility. They weren't just shaping a new kind of firearm. They were forging the character of a man who would become a legend of American innovation. In the winter of 1836, during a time when most firearms could only fire a single shot, Samuel Colt unveiled something that seemed almost magical to those who witnessed it. The Patterson revolver wasn't just another gun. It was a revolution in mechanical engineering that would echo through the chambers of history. Named after the New Jersey town where it was first manufactured, the Patterson wasn't born in a flash of brilliance, but through countless hours of meticulous refinement. Colt's workshops rang with the sound of metal on metal as he perfected the intricate dance of spring, hammer, and cylinder. Each component had to move in perfect harmony, like the finest Swiss timepiece, but rugged enough to withstand the brutal conditions of frontier life. The heart of Colt's innovation lay in its revolving cylinder mechanism. Previous attempts at multi-shot firearms had been plagued by problems. They were unreliable, dangerous, or simply too complex to be practical. But Colt's design was different. With each cock of the hammer, the cylinder would rotate precisely, bringing a new chamber into alignment with the barrel. It was elegantly simple, yet revolutionary in its implications. But the path to success was far from smooth. Military leaders set in their ways initially scoffed at the newfangled weapon. "What's wrong with the guns we already have?" they demanded. Some called it a novelty, others a dangerous experiment. Even when Colt demonstrated its capabilities, firing shot after shot with unprecedented speed and accuracy, many remained skeptical. The early Patterson had its flaws. Loading was complicated, requiring partial disassembly, and some parts proved too delicate for military use. But those who saw its potential recognized something profound. This wasn't just a new gun. It was the beginning of a new era. In the hands of a skilled user, the Patterson could deliver 5 shots in the time it took to fire and reload a conventional pistol once. The Texas Rangers were among the first to grasp the weapon's true potential. In the vast expanses of the frontier, where every second could mean the difference between life and death, the ability to fire multiple shots without reloading wasn't just an advantage. It was a game changer. Tales began to spread of Rangers holding their own against overwhelming odds, thanks to their new Colt revolvers. Colt knew he was on the verge of something extraordinary. Even as critics dismissed his invention, he continued refining, improving, and dreaming bigger. The Patterson might have been his first success, but Samuel Colt was just getting started. The age of the revolver had begun, and the American West would never be the same. The Mexican-American War erupted in 1846, and with it came Samuel Colt's moment of destiny. The Texas Rangers, who had already experienced the revolutionary power of Colt's revolvers, demanded more of these weapons for the brutal combat that lay ahead. But this time they wanted something even more powerful, a gun that could stop a charging horse with a single shot. Enter Captain Samuel Walker, a legendary Texas Ranger who sought out Colt with a vision. Together they designed what would become the massive Colt Walker revolver, a 6-shot beast that fired a .44 caliber ball with unprecedented force. When the first Walker Colts reached the battlefield, they didn't just meet expectations, they exceeded them. Soldiers who wielded them spoke of their stopping power with a mixture of awe and pride. But Colt knew that having a revolutionary design wasn't enough. He needed to produce these weapons on a scale never before attempted. This led him to one of the most crucial partnerships in American manufacturing history, with Eli Whitney, Jr., son of the famous cotton gin inventor. Together, they pioneered something that would change manufacturing forever: the concept of interchangeable parts. In Whitney's factory, Colt implemented production techniques that were decades ahead of their time. Each component was machined to such precise specifications that any part could fit any gun of the same model. This wasn't just about making guns, it was about reinventing how things were made. The precision, the efficiency, the sheer scale of production was unlike anything the world had seen. As the war raged on, Colt's reputation soared. The introduction of the 1851 Navy model cemented his place in history. Lighter than the Walker but more refined than the Patterson, the Navy model struck a perfect balance between power and practicality. It became the sidearm of choice for countless soldiers, lawmen, and civilians alike. Success bred success. Orders flooded in from military forces around the world. Colt's revolvers were no longer just weapons. They were symbols of American innovation and craftsmanship. Each gun that left his factory carried with it the promise of reliability and precision that had become synonymous with the Colt name. But perhaps most remarkable was how Colt handled this success. He didn't rest on his laurels or become complacent. Instead, he continued to innovate, refine, and push the boundaries of what was possible. Every new model incorporated improvements suggested by those who used them in the field. This wasn't just business. It was a relentless pursuit of perfection that would define American firearms manufacturing for generations to come. God created all men equal, the old saying went, but Sam Colt made them equal. On the untamed frontier, where law was scarce and danger constant, these words rang truer than ever. The Colt revolver didn't just change how people fought, it changed how they lived, thought, and survived in the American West. Consider a lone settler, outnumbered by bandits or hostile warriors. Before Colt's revolution, after firing a single shot, They'd be left vulnerable during the long reload. But with a Colt strapped to their hip, they now had 6 chances to defend their home, their family, their life. This wasn't just about firepower, it was about hope, about evening the odds in a land where odds were rarely even. The impact rippled across the frontier like a shot across open plains. Stagecoach drivers kept Colts close at hand, their very presence deterring would-be robbers. Lawmen found themselves better equipped to maintain order in growing frontier towns. Even the famous Texas Rangers adapted their tactics, knowing they could now face multiple adversaries with newfound confidence. But the Colt Revolver's influence went beyond combat. It became a tool of survival, as essential to a frontier family as their plow or wagon. Settlers heading west would often spend their last dollars on a Colt, knowing their lives might depend on it. The revolver's reliability meant one less thing to worry about in a land full of uncertainties. The weapon's reputation grew through countless tales, some true, some embellished, all adding to the mystique. There were stories of peace officers facing down entire gangs, of ranchers protecting their herds from rustlers, of mail carriers completing their routes through hostile territory. The Colt became more than a firearm. It became a character in the great American story. As towns sprouted up across the West, Colt's revolvers played a paradoxical role. While they could certainly take lives, they also helped establish order. The knowledge that everyone might be armed encouraged civility in places where law enforcement was stretched thin. An armed society is a polite society, became another frontier truism. The revolver's influence extended into Native American territories as well, forever changing the dynamics of frontier warfare. Traditional tactics had to evolve in the face of this new technology. The balance of power shifted, contributing to the complex and often tragic relationship between settlers and indigenous peoples. Yet perhaps the Colt Revolver's most lasting impact was on the American psyche itself. It became a symbol of self-reliance, of technological progress, of the ability to stand one's ground, regardless of the odds. In a very real sense, Samuel Colt's invention didn't just arm the American West, it helped shape its very character. In 1855, on the banks of the Connecticut River, Samuel Colt built something unprecedented, a manufacturing empire that would become the 8th wonder of the industrial world. The Colt Armory wasn't just a factory. It was a cathedral of American innovation, its distinctive blue onion dome reaching toward the sky like a declaration of industrial might. Inside these walls, Colt created more than weapons. He forged the future of manufacturing. The factory floor hummed with precision machinery, each component crafted to such exact specifications that any part could fit any gun of the same model. Workers moved with practiced efficiency, their actions choreographed like a complex industrial ballet. This wasn't just mass production. This was mass production perfected. The numbers were staggering. By 1856, the factory could produce 150 revolvers per day. The sound of hammers striking metal, the hiss of steam engines, and the rhythmic clank of machinery created a symphony of progress that echoed across the nation. Colt's success was so complete that his name became synonymous with the revolver itself, much like Kleenex would later become with tissues. But Colt's vision extended beyond the factory floor. He created an entire community around his armory, building housing for workers, establishing gardens, and providing amenities that were unheard of for industrial workers of the time. This wasn't just business. It was nation-building on a micro scale. His workers weren't just employees. They were part of the Colt family, sharing in the pride of creating something extraordinary. The impact of Colt's manufacturing techniques rippled through American industry. His methods of standardization and interchangeable parts were studied and copied by other manufacturers, spreading far beyond firearms production. From sewing machines to bicycles, the American system of manufacturing that Colt helped pioneer transformed how the world made things. When Samuel Colt died in 1862, he left behind more than just a successful company. His legacy lived on in every precision-manufactured product, in every assembly line, in every factory that adopted his revolutionary methods. The Colt name became a guarantee of quality, precision, and innovation that would endure for generations. A testament to one man's vision of how things could be made better, faster, and more consistently than ever before.